This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. We're just going to give it another minute or so, just so everyone can join us and get settled, and then we'll start the presentation. Okay, so I think we'll get started. Thank you very much for joining us here today. My name is Jenny Oxley. I'm from Leeds Arts University, and I'm joined by Maria Quero from Arts University Bournemouth and Ryan Duncan from the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. So today we are going to run through some advice for counsellors who might be guiding students to think about creative studies in the UK. Please do feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go through, and whoever is not speaking will be happy to answer those, but we will also have time for questions at the end. So can we go to the first slide, please, Maria? And what I will do is just quickly run through what we're going to cover today. So first of all, we'll do a bit of scene setting with why your students should consider studying art and design in the UK. And then we'll give you an overview of the UK system to help you understand how it all works. We'll touch on the costs involved in studying a creative degree in the UK, and we'll also talk about how to navigate the UK admissions system, and then we'll point you to some extra resources that are available for counsellors as well. So first of all, as I said, just a bit of scene setting really with just how important the creative industries are to both the UK and the global economy. So the creative industries are responsible for 12% of all businesses in the UK, which represents 1 in 11 jobs in the UK. So you can see that's massive. We get over 270,000 applications per year to creative courses in the UK. And I know at my institution that represents around 5 applications for every place that we have. 87% of creative jobs are classed as future-proof with no to low risk of automation, because of course, as hard as you try, you can't recreate true creativity with AI, as hard as they try. It's just impossible. So you can see just how essential that is to the UK economy, and £101 billion generated every year. That represents figures from 2017, which are of course the latest figures available, but it does give you an idea of just how important the creative industries are to the future. So the myth of the starving artist is no more. It is indeed just a myth. Can we go to the next slide, please, Maria? And so now just a bit more scene setting. I'd like to play a short video explaining again just how important the creative industries are. I can't hear the sound, Maria. Can now, perfect.
There's a deep desire in us to make pictures. I mean, they've been drawing for 30,000 years. The teaching of drawing is teaching people to look. That's what it's doing.
It was really when I was at art school that I started to see the relationship between history, philosophy, politics, and art. Prior to that, I thought that art was just making pretty pictures. Actually, art is connected to, life.
You can't teach art in the same way you can teach French. French exists whether you do it or not. But when you're doing art, the center of doing art is in yourself. Most of the literate subjects do not ask that of them. So this develops an entirely different realm of skill.
Creativity is critical thinking. And without it, How are you going to really open up and ask harder questions? And art opens all of those kind of passages and possibilities to think beyond what we already know.
In a child's education, that doors need to be opened to other universes, other modes of thinking. And art is a non-prescribed, dangerous world full of possibility. And I think that's a vital space for children to have in the formative years of their education.
From a top-down level, you don't have innovation if you don't have arts. It's as simple as that.
It doesn't matter if you're going to study history or geography or science, you still need to be creative, because the people who are the outliers in those fields are the most creative people. To have art in schools be eroded, which is happening at the moment, is disastrous for Britain, I think, because our best industry is the creative industry.
Art and cultural production is at the very center of what makes a society what it is. And for an entire new generation not to know what is the cultural and visual history of ourselves is kind of denying our own identity.
Art is a reflection of the society that we are, the kind of mirror that art holds up, the way that art helps define the identity of a nation, that you can trace that back historically. It's deeply embedded in humanity.
What art education does to people who are not going to be artists is giving them the opportunity to build certain aspect of themselves that otherwise will be either ignored, undeveloped, or repressed.
It's all about kids finding out who they are, and they're all different.
That you can be whatever you want to be is something that art certainly taught me. It can access a part of your brain, body, spirit, mind that nothing else can.
Nothing is more stimulating, exciting, consoling than looking at a brilliant painting.
Art in schools shouldn't be sidelined. I think it should be right there, right up in the front, because I think art teaches you to deal with the world around you. It's the oxygen that actually makes all the other subjects breathe.
There's a great quote by John Ruskin. Art shows us what it is to be human. And really that's why art should be on the curriculum.
So hopefully that will help to persuade your students why they should study creative arts in the UK. And one more thing I would just like to highlight to you is the graduate immigration route that was introduced to the UK in summer of 21. And of course, this is a very welcome change for all of us. This means that any international student that studies a degree level qualification in the UK can then apply to the graduate route, which means they can remain in the UK to live and work for up to 2 years. There are no salary or sector restrictions on the work they can do. And of course, great news for creative graduates, you are able to be self-employed and you are able to freelance on this video as well. So it's really good news, and it's definitely proved to be extremely popular with international students studying their qualifications in the UK. And now I'm going to hand over to Maria.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, that was an amazing video. I cannot stop watching that one, isn't it? It's really, really inspiring to see the importance of the creative studies. And in the UK, in general, we have some great institutions and universities that deliver creative subjects, whether as a specialist universities or whether general universities, they're all having the same sort of way of looking at the teaching and the learning that the students are doing. And this is a very practical, hands-on, studio-based learning. This is happening across all of the universities in the UK, where creative subjects are at the top of what students wanted to learn. In the way that their curriculums are set are through seminar and lectures, of course, but very much so focus on the students to be able to access workshops and areas where they can work with different materials. They can interact not just as an individual, but also as a group, having project work, delivering work that is linked and related to the creative industries directly, whether they are live projects, whether they are student presentations, student critiques. So there is a lot of based on the type of work experience skills that the students are going to need once they graduate. And because of that, most of the universities tend to ensure that the focus through the degree programs is very much on students gaining all of those skills that the industry is actually going to be looking for once they graduate. So there is a lot of collaborative work happening. In the case of the Arts University, we got a lot of specialist degrees, so we make students to do a lot of collaboration between students. So that's something that happens across universities, just for you to get an overview on the way that creative subjects are taught and learned here in the UK. In order to do all this, we need to have specialist facilities. We need to have campuses that are dedicated with workshops and all of the industry standards, from software, equipment, studio base, whatever it is that the students can learn and feel like if they are already kind of part of that industry, and becoming a specialist on their own subjects, being able to use any sort of specialist materials. They are able to explore not just the new softwares or the new developments on a specific industry. They are also able to understand, learn, and use traditional, explore traditional areas, for example, from printmaking to cutting-edge technologies. So that's something that there is a great investment from UK universities to ensure that the universities have great campus with all of those workshops and facilities that are really necessary for students to get into the creative subjects. And there is also a career preparation center in most of the universities. And this is because most of us are focusing on creative studies subjects. We wanted to mirror the work within the creative industries. We wanted to have all this practical experience in the campus, but we also wanted to ensure that we prepare our students with all the skills that they need to go and set themselves to prepare for their career, from their portfolio that they're going to need to apply for a job, to interview, to how the industry work. We bring a lot of people from the creative industry to our campus to give lectures, to talk about their own experience. We get a lot of the professional networking events happening in the campus, as well as our own alumni. That is so key for most universities in the UK. We got an amazing alumni group of people that has graduated with us, that are out there now in the world working for the creative industry. And those guys are absolutely fantastic when they come back to our campus and they give a speech to students to tell them about what was their journey, how did they do it, how did they get into the industry. So there is a lot of guidance, a lot of advice, a lot of events happening through the career preparation support that we give to the students as well. So the student experience is at the core of everything that we do here in the UK, regardless of the subject that really they study. But when it comes to creative professionals, we're trying to ensure that they are not just experiencing everything that comes from, networking connections, having a multicultural and multinational environment in the campus, but they also have independent study support. They also have support on many other areas that in the last few years, unfortunately, is being put back into the picture so much, and we really need to look after, the mental health, the well-being of our students, ensure that they are supported. And in all of the other areas, from finance to pre-departure to international orientation, a lot of our students come from so many different places all over the world, many of them, they have never come to the UK before to study. So there is great support from UK universities in general to ensure that students get all the support with any of the areas that they're going to encounter, from English language support to travel support, but also there is a lot of student union support as well. Those guys get a lot of clubs and societies every year that help students to get integrated with all of the other students in the campus, get into social activities and things that they could really enjoy and be part of the new community once they are here. And now I'm going to stop and pass you back to my colleague Ryan, who is going to talk to you a little bit about the structure of the degree programs here in the UK.
Hello everyone. So degrees in the UK are structured slightly differently depending on whereabouts in the UK the student is choosing to study. So in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, generally an undergraduate degree is 3 years in duration. All three of us are located in England, for those of you who don't know that. In Scotland, it is a slightly different structure. So they have typically a 4-year degree programme, which is 2 years of breadth and then 2 years of depth. Across the whole of the UK, we tend to offer a mixture of joint honours or dual degree programmes, which do join 2 subjects in a single degree. And these are available at most universities. They do have to be named on an institution's website. You cannot just pick 2 random programmes that a university teaches and join them together. And there is also direct entry to degree programmes and to professional degree programmes as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. We also in the UK offer what's called a foundation year. So this is almost like a year 0. In some cases, it can be a standalone course. In other cases, it can be integrated into an undergraduate degree. But the foundation year is a 1-year preparation course, typically for international students who need additional English language and/or academic preparation for entry onto an undergraduate course, or it can be a foundation in a specific subject area as well. A foundation year is typically suitable for students with lower GPA or lower A-level or IB requirements that are required for UK higher education, or for students who have not studied in the English language previously. And of course, one of the great advantages of a foundation year is that it can help students to familiarise themselves with UK culture and academic life. So it's kind of a stepping stone into the full degree programme in that regard as well. So here is just a little visual demonstration of what the degree structure looks like in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, first of all. So you can see there the 3-year degree at the top, potentially with the added year 0 or foundation year at the beginning. The standard degree is then 3 years, which is the second line down. Some programmes will have a study abroad or replacement year as part of their course. Typically, that takes place between year 2 and year 3. So again, that would go on to then make it a 4-year programme. And then also you have what's called an integrated master's, which is where you have your 3-year degree followed by a year at the end of postgraduate study, but it's all classed as the one programme. So again, that makes it a 4-year programme in total, but you have your integrated master's at the end. It's probably not as complicated as that diagram makes it sound. And then in Scotland, like I said before, it is a little bit different. So you have your 4 years of study. Year 1 and 2, you choose 3 different subjects. So that's your 2 years of breadth. And then in years 3 and 4 is where you do your 2 years of depth. So you're picking your specific major or a specific degree route, and then you are focusing on that. So all of your modules relate to your program of study. I think that is my last slide. Oh no, this one is. So just a little bit before I hand over to Jenny about the completion and acceptance rates in the UK overall. So the UK dropout rate overall is around 6.5% nationally. So that is significantly lower than many countries around the world, including the US, which I'm sure you will also have a lot of students who are interested in completing their study or their training in the US. But also acceptance rates are slightly different in the UK, again, especially compared to the US. So since students apply directly to a degree program, our admissions requirements and what we're looking for from a student are much more transparent. So we can all tell you our academic and largely non-academic entry requirements for any of our programs right from the off. So that is my last slide. So now I will hand over to Jenny.
Thanks, Ryan. So I'm now going to move on to talk about accommodation at UK universities. And of course, there is a wide variety of accommodation options available at universities, and it will all depend on the type of university that your students decide to apply to. So a lot of universities will have their own halls, especially if they're a campus university. Other universities, especially if they're city universities, might have accommodation providers within the city where they're based. I know at my institution, we work with accommodation providers, but all the accommodation is within easy walking distance of the campus. So there's a variety of options. And of course, that means there is a variety of options to suit all budgets. So for example, self-catered or catered, depending of course on how your students fancy their hand at cooking. And an average cost, you are looking at between say $6,000 and $8,000 per year. Just of course, again, depending on the type of accommodation. The vast majority of universities will have guarantees of accommodation for international students, but of course be aware that there might be deadlines imposed on those as well to confirm your accommodation booking. And a particular feature of the UK, which of course differs from other countries, especially the US, is that we don't typically do shared rooms. So normally in a UK university, students do expect to have their own private room. And again, in the more higher standard accommodations, that will also include an ensuite bathroom. So normally it's a private single room, sometimes with a bathroom, and then normally a shared kitchen or living area in most accommodation styles. Can I have that? Oh, thank you. And cost of attendance, of course, we did say we would cover the costs involved at studying at a UK university. And the tuition fee costs for international students will vary by institution. So typically they start from around £10,000 all the way up to £26,000. But again, it will vary massively. So it's a great idea to make sure your students do double check with the universities that they are interested in applying to. And when we talk about those, we are specifically talking about tuition fees, and they are per year for degree programs, which, as Ryan mentioned, are typically 3 years long in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So that will be separate from accommodation and living fees. And we do have funding options which are widely available. So if you do have any American citizens amongst your students, then they can think about submitting a FAFSA if they are planning to fund their studies through federal aid. Universities will also have a wide variety of scholarships available, and it's a good idea to check the particular website of the university that your students are interested in applying to. Typically how it works is a student will apply for a place and then apply for a scholarship, and the scholarships again will vary in form. Some will be cash scholarships, some will be tuition fee discounts. The majority are merit-based, and then there'll also be some subject-specific ones as well, like for example sports scholarships, and some universities will also have alumni awards. If you do have American students who are planning to use federal aid to fund their studies, then you can advise them to apply to a UK university in exactly the same way as you would apply to a US college. And I think I'm going to hand back now to Maria.
Thank you, Jenny. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where to apply and how to apply for your students. In most cases, most international students will normally apply through the UCAS system, which is the system that we use here in the UK for applications. many universities will also offer the option to apply directly to that university. Normally that is the case when students have chosen perhaps just one university they wanted to study. So instead of using the UCAS option where they can select several universities, they can apply directly for just that university they wanted to apply, and go directly to the university for that. And then we also accept some universities, not all of us, but some universities also accept the Common App, which is the application mostly used in the US as well by students. So what I will usually recommend is, depending on what institution your students wanted to go with an application, to check the sort of acceptance of applications they have, whether they have data application, whether they have UCAS and Common App, or just the UCAS system available. For those of you that work usually with UCAS, so most students who work apply through the UCAS system here in the UK, which is the most common one. There is some key facts and important dates to remember, to be part of the diaries of the students when they are looking at applications year after year. And the bigger one for the majority of the undergraduate courses happens in January every year. Of course, there are some other deadlines that happen before that for some particular courses, but for the creative subjects ones that we are sort of focusing into this webinar series, the January deadline next year will be for 2023 applications, will be 25th of January of 2023. So that's the next UCAS deadline. We just passed this year, January UCAS deadline. There is also in March, there is another deadline for some specific art and design courses. And then in June is the last day normally to submit an application before the clearing time. So March and June are another couple of days that the UCAS system will probably be updating into their website the actual days for those deadlines in March and June. So just keep an eye on those ones. And in the way they work, you're probably all very familiar with it, but as you know, you can apply for a maximum of 5 courses. There is a cost for that. If you apply for all of the courses, £25, but if you apply for one course, only £20. So, and there is also equal consideration if the deadlines are met. So it's very important that students ensure that their application go within that deadline, because then they have the chance to have an equal consideration for their application. And an interesting fact is that universities don't know where students will be applying. That's something that sometimes students and sometimes even counselors, they don't know. We as a universities, we will know if there is one of your students applying for the 3 universities that we are here today presenting to you. We will know between each other that your student is applying for all of us. So universities start reviewing their applications and sending the offers to the students without knowing what other universities they are applying for. So the UCAS application in general will have 6 sections online for students to complete. Usually, obviously, their personal details, the choices of the universities they wanted to make, and they have some sections where they can put all the education history, so what they study and stuff like that, if they have any employment history, and also the personal statement letter, which is something that it's quite key and important for universities to understand from the student perspective, you know, where they are at and why they wanted to study in the UK. And then also the reference as well. So if you are a counselor that normally gives the reference to your students for the university application, that reference will be uploaded in there as well. UCAS, as you all know, is the organization responsible to connect those students to the UK higher education. But I wanted to put in here some visuals for you, because I assume that you have been in the UCAS website and got very familiar with it. But it's much more than just an application portal for you and your students, or it could be much more than just an application portal for you and your students. It's a source of a lot of information about every single university your students wanted to apply. And I know from talking to so many counselors on the daily basis that, you know, you're dealing with a lot of students on a daily basis. You are having to give a lot of different advice, looking at different recommendations for your students, looking at different ways of applying, and sometimes it's very difficult to navigate around all of that information. You have to go through 20 different websites, through 20 different universities to find out exactly a lot. And this is why I wanted to point it out to you today, that the UCAS website can be a really great resource for you, because all of our universities information, all of our courses, entry requirements, everything is actually in the UCAS platform. It's in the UCAS website. So you can type any of the universities we are here today. I put some visuals in there for you. Lipa University, the Arts University Bournemouth, Leeds Art University, and you can see in there all of the courses that we offer, the entry requirements for each of them, the cost of the course, everything is in one. So instead of having to navigate, which anyway I recommend you to do, because especially to the students, so they get familiar with the website of our universities, with their requirements like the portfolio guidelines and things like that. But for counselors like yourself, this could be a really great tool to ensure that you find the information quite quickly without having to use a lot of your time. One of the things that is quite important on it's the personal statements choices. As you know, the personal statement from the students is very, very important. We normally accept a maximum of 4,000 characters, so it's about 47, 50 lines as an average. And it's really important because it's where the student tell us why they wanted to study that subject, why they wanted to come to do this specific course, what they think this course is going to give them. It's very important to remember that personal statement, it's put through the UCAS system. So it will be the same for all of the universities that will receive that. And the reference is also very important as well. So a lot of things that we're normally looking at in the personal statements, we got a lot of questions normally from students about these. It's why they think that this course is the right one for them, what skills, what knowledge, what experience they already have through their life, through their education, that they can show into that statement. And if they understand really the demands on the course, and if they feel that they are a good fit for studying in the university. So we normally want the students to ensure that they give us as much information as possible into that personal statement. But being a creative university, as you know, the portfolio will be really extremely important for us to identify the sort of creative thinking, creative process of those students through their portfolios as well. So in a lot of the courses, from creative courses in the UK, they will be asked for a portfolio of work, or if it's a performance course such as acting or dance, they will be asked for an audition. Sometimes there will be interviews, sometimes they will not. So there are a lot of things that students need to take into consideration and prepare. And the recommendation will always be, if they are preparing for a specific course application for a university, that they check the portfolio guidelines requirements for that specific course and that specific university into the university website. So whether you can find a lot of general information through the UCAS platform, and you can look a lot through there. For portfolios, it's very important that students learn that they need to ensure that portfolios need to be followed the guidelines for every university. So they may have a couple of versions of the portfolios, and they may be submitted to the admissions team of every university differently. They don't have to be the same. And going through the entry requirements, there are UCAS points tariff that may apply to the university, and normally in all of our websites or in the UCAS website, you can check exactly what is the minimum entry requirements for each single university and each course as well. We normally, as I say, the portfolio will have a lot of weight on also making the decision on that application. And if there is any doubt or any concerns or anything that you're not sure with regards to perhaps the English level, or any other entry requirements, questions that you may have, the admissions team in each of the universities in the UK are usually super supportive to provide information, to guide you through, to let you know where you find the right information as well. So ensure that you reach out to that university, that you talk to the advisor in your university, the admission office team in that university to ask any specific questions as well. And I think I pass you over to my colleague Jenny now.
Ryan first.
Ryan, okay, Ryan then.
Hello. So just some more information on where you can get some help. So as Maria was just saying, every university in the UK has an international team, so do reach out to them for any questions or concerns that you may have. UCAS.com is a great resource, so that has all of the information such as the course searches, but also there's a lot of information on there in terms of writing a personal statement, how to submit a portfolio, how to look at different courses and institutions. And there's a lot of video resources on there as well. So they're useful for both counsellors and advisors such as yourselves, but also resources that you could pass on to students looking at the UK as well. And then we also have what's called UK CSER, which is the UK Council for International Student Affairs. They are an independent charity purely for international students studying in the UK. I'm sure that all three of us use their website for a lot of resources and information. So again, a great place for you to use for your own resources as well. Next slide, please. So we're just going to move on to tell you a little bit each about our three institutions so that hopefully it contextualizes some of the information we've already given you and tells you a little bit more about us. So at LIPA, we are the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts. The "for" is very important in our title because we are both for performers and those who make performance possible. We were co-founded in 1996 by Sir Paul McCartney, who remains our lead patron and to date has attended every graduation ceremony. So when the students are on the stage shaking someone's hand, it is his hand that they shake so far every year. We are a relatively small institution, so around 1,000 students in total. But despite our small size, we still have a large international population. So around 1 in 4 of our students come from outside of the UK, representing over 50 different nationalities worldwide. As you might expect, we are a creative, collaborative and industry-focused environment, and we teach a range of programs across 8 different discipline areas. So those are acting, applied theatre, dance, design and technology, filmmaking, management, music, and sound technology. And the final thing that I'll mention is, of course, the city of Liverpool itself, which you can picture, you see there in the picture, is the Liverpool waterfront. So that's around a 10-minute walk away from our campus. It's regularly used as a film location for either London or New York. So if any of you have seen the latest Batman film, a lot of that was filmed against the Liver building, which is the building on the left with the clocks at the top. So it's a fantastic city. It's a very cultural city and a very diverse and arts-focused city, as you might expect from the home of the Beatles. So that's all on LIPA. I will hand over, I think it's Jenny that's next. No, Maria.
It's me. Well, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Art University Bournemouth. We've been established for quite some time, over 130 years now, and we're mainly a specialist institution, which means that all of the courses that we offer at AUB are related to art, design, media, and performance. So very focused, very niche on what we do. We 100% mirror the work within the creative industry. So we are a very practical, focused university. which got a great creative community in just one campus. You can see some images there of our drawing studio, that blue building on the left-hand side. That's our drawing studio that was built just a few years ago, and it's the first drawing studio that's been built in the UK in the last 100 years. We are the UK's top specialist art and design university by the Good University Guide in 2021, and we are located in a very beautiful location in the southwest of the UK, in Bournemouth. It's a great place to be, and I'm going to play you a quick video from our Vice Chancellor, Paul Gough, which gives a really great and best introduction than anybody else to what AUB is about and what we do.
So this is the Crab Drawing Studio, created by one of our ex-students, Peter Cook. It's the most extraordinary drawing studio in any university in the world, I think. And Peter was knighted by the Queen for his efforts in creating this for our university, and it has the unique distinction of being the first art studio, drawing studio built in any university in 100 years. So my name's Paul Gough, and I have the fantastic job of being Vice Chancellor of this amazing university here, the Arts University Bournemouth, or AUB as we call it. And I came here because AUB has such a distinct profile. I've worked in universities all over the world, and yet something in AUB is really quite extraordinary. It has a portfolio of courses that offer everything you ever wanted in the arts, in media, in performance, in design and architecture. A unique combination of professional practice, of the best teaching, fantastic studios, great technical workshops, but above all, it prepares our students for the world of work, for life after study. And we know that because 97% of our students have been getting work in their profession of choice in the last few years. That's an extraordinary statistic, and you can be part of that success story. So you might say it's easy for me to say all that, but actually others say it on my behalf. A few years ago, under the Teaching Excellence Framework, we were awarded gold status, and that's run by the government, not by me. Under the recent Ofsted inspection, we were awarded outstanding. And under the very, very recent Complete University Guide, we came out in the top 50. And not just the top 50 university, but in the top 10 for our learning and teaching. So this is an amazing place to want to be, to work, to study, to enjoy, to have a great sense of belonging. So come here, join us. It's a terrific place and you'll have a terrific time.
Thanks, Maria. So now I'm just going to give you a quick overview of my university. We are based at the other end of the country from Maria's university. We are based in the city of Leeds, and we are the only specialist arts university in the north of England. We are a small institution. We have around 2,500 students studying with us at degree level. So we're very small, friendly and supportive. There's no crowds to get lost into, and everybody knows your name. We are #1 for student support, and I think that does reflect our friendly and supportive atmosphere. And that was based on the What Uni Student Choice Awards of 2020. And so I think all that follows that we have extremely high student satisfaction and retention rates. We have some very famous alumni, including Damien Hirst, Barbara Hepworth and Henry Moore. We also have the Barbara Hepworth Gallery just down the road in Wakefield, and the Henry Moore, his work can be seen in the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, which again is just down the road, and that's a lovely place to walk around on a weekend afternoon. So Leeds is a very exciting and rapidly growing city. We have a thriving arts scene. It's a very student-focused city. We have 6 universities altogether in Leeds, which equals around 100,000 students. So it's very student-focused, and of course, being based in the north of England, the cost of living is lower than in the south of England. So of course, that's a good advantage for our students as well. All of our facilities are industry standard, and in fact we've won the award for best facilities at the What Uni Student Choice Awards 3 times in the last 5 years, and 92% of our graduates are in work or further study in their chosen profession within 6 months of graduating from our university. So just a quick overview of our university, and if you have the next slide now, Maria. So these are our contact details. We've had loads of questions coming in the chat during the presentation, which is great. So I hope we've managed to answer those. But of course, here you can see our email addresses and the websites of our individual institutions. So please do feel free to get in touch with us if you would like any further information, or if you have any specific questions about our institutions at all. And then, of course, this one is the very first presentation of a whole series of presentations which are taking place over the next couple of days. So if you scan that QR code, it will take you straight to the website where you can see the full schedule. So do please join us for the rest of the sessions that are taking place over the next 2 days. We have a lot of subject-specific talks as well. So if there's any particular area that you think is of interest to your students, please do direct them to those as well. And then we do have some time if anyone has any more questions. Thank you for putting your questions in the chat as we went through, but of course we'd be very pleased to answer any more questions that you have now. And we did also get a couple of questions about whether the recordings and the slides were going to be made available. And yes, we will. We'll be making all of the presentations along with the recordings available to all participants. So you'll be able to watch us endlessly. If you do have any questions, feel free to you can speak them out loud or you can put them in the chat, whichever you feel most comfortable of. And like I said, we do have our email addresses if you have any more specific questions for us, or if you'd like to visit our institution websites. But if we have managed to answer your questions as we went through, then thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, please do join the rest of the sessions that are taking place over the next couple of days. Oh, we do have one question about, do we recommend foundation years for art and design students? And I think I'll let Maria and Ryan speak for their institutions, but I know at my institution, it's very much a personal choice and it's very much up to the individual student. If a student's qualifications allow them to progress straight to undergraduate study, then it's not an obligatory requirement at all to do a foundation year. But a lot of students do still feel like they need that extra year, and it could be because they want to develop a bit more on a personal level, or it could just be because they're not quite sure yet where they want to specialize. And a foundation year does give you that opportunity to explore different specialist areas before you choose one area to focus on for your degree level study. So I think the answer for that is it would depend on the individual qualifications of the student, and it's a personal choice. And I don't know if Maria or Ryan want to add anything to that for their own.
No, totally, Jenny. I think you covered that perfectly. I think exactly the same, depending on the qualifications of the student. And as you say, depending on whether that student wanted to develop further skills before going into an undergraduate program, or whether they are not sure really. And that happens in a lot of cases, I think, when students are really undecided. They may identify already the area. They know they wanted to work in design, or they wanted to go into the media sort of area, but they haven't identified exactly what within the media they wanted to study. So foundation is a great year and a great opportunity for the students to work on several projects within the media pathway, or the design pathway, or the arts pathway, where they can actually start identify what type of career they wanted to do within those pathways. So we also recommend them to take a foundation if they want, if they're, but as you say, if the qualifications are sufficient for them to apply to the undergraduate, they can do so straight away as well.
And we have another question. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say a slightly different slant. At LIPA, our foundations are a little bit different. So we have a foundation in acting, foundation in dance, and one in music. So that breadth that Jenny and Maria had talking about, that's not the case with ours. And it's less based on academic scores and more based on their dance, acting, or music talent that we would place on the foundation. So it's a slightly different side of the coin there.
Oh, okay, so does that mean if someone applied for, say, for example, the dance course, and they in the audition they weren't quite assessed as ready yet for undergraduate study, you might recommend a foundation year in dance?
Yeah, okay. That's exactly it.
Perfect. And we have another question about what are typical timelines for not just submitting the app, but also for the portfolio audition, interviews, and hearing about offers. I think, again, this will vary from institution to institution. I know for my institution, we do aim to assess an application and decide whether or not to progress it. So we assess against our academic requirements first. And if it meets those academic requirements, we will then request the submission of a portfolio or an audition. We aim to do that within a maximum of 2 weeks. And then again, after submitting the portfolio or the audition, it will be again another 2 weeks before we respond with a decision. That, of course, is our aim. Sometimes at busy times, like in between January and March, then it can take a little bit longer, but that's what we aim for. So we do aim to not keep students hanging around at all. And we do aim to help students move through the process as quickly as possible, because of course, students need to have their full array of options in order to be able to make a decision. I don't know if Maria or Ryan want to add anything to that.
No, exactly the same for Arts University Bournemouth. We're trying to get back to the students as soon as possible. And once we receive the application, saying we will check entry requirements and then check or require all the portfolios or the other documentation that they need straight away, and trying to get back. As you say, I think they need to be aware that there is this period of time between January and March where we have received all the applications through UCAS, and some courses specifically may be as well more busy than others. We receive perhaps a lot of more applications for some courses than others. So it varies, I think, between the courses that they are applying as well.
Yeah, exactly the same. The only other thing that I would add is that some courses may have a two-stage process. So for example, a two-stage audition process, which, as you might expect, can delay things a little bit. So I'd say 2 weeks from receiving the initial application, and then 2 weeks after the final audition or portfolio submission, but that little bit in the middle could be a little bit longer, depending on the course.
I think just one final thing to add to that question as well is that, of course, you know, the earlier students submit an application, then of course the quicker they will get a response before it gets into the very busy time. But the main thing is that we just advise students to make sure they apply in plenty of time to allow them to do the rest of their preparations. So once they've made the decision on which university whose offer they would like to accept, then of course, you know, you need to move on to deciding about accommodation, and then it's a visa application if that's required. And we definitely recommend getting all of that done in good time, because no one wants to be stuck in their home country wondering when their UK visa is going to come through and are they going to make it in time for the start of the course. So that would be the key thing, really, just to, you know, preparation ahead of time is always going to make your life a little bit easier when you're making your plans to travel to the UK.
Definitely.
Just the next question now. So are there requirements for foundation year and minimum grades? So again, just speaking for my institution, then yes, absolutely there are. And normally for foundation year, we also ask for a portfolio, and we ask for 72 UCAS tariff points, as opposed to undergraduate study where we ask for 112 tariff points. So it is a lower requirement. And we have someone else as well who asked for, is it acceptable for students to apply using AS level grades? And unfortunately, the answer to that would be no. So even for the foundation, it is a post A level course for us. But I don't know if Maria or Ryan want to add anything different for their institutions.
Same, yeah, post level 3 qualification.
Cool. I think you muted, Maria.
Oh, sorry. Yes, same exactly for AUB. We also require for a portfolio as well for foundation. So and the portfolio guidelines can be found in the website under the course. We can share some of the portfolio guidelines if people need to know more about it as well. But yeah, same.
And then another question, is it likely that students who completed the foundation will be accepted by your university? So again, just speaking for my university, then I can say yes, absolutely. We do say to students, if you do our foundation year, we then, of course, assuming you successfully complete it, we then do guarantee progression to a degree course at our university. But again, that might vary from institution to institution.
I will say that the percentage of progression from foundation to degree courses in our university is very high. There is no guarantee progression from the foundation into degree courses. The students still have to have the undergraduate application and their portfolio review, but the percentage is extremely high every year because obviously they go preparing the university.
Ours is probably a little bit lower than Jenny and Maria's, so we don't guarantee progression onto a degree from a foundation certificate. There's some people that choose to apply for the degree, there's other people who choose not to, but yeah, nothing is guaranteed.
And another question, when one is applying, do they apply specifically to the bachelor's degree and the foundation year, or are they assigned to do the foundation after they have been admitted? So for this, it would never be after you've been admitted that you would be assigned to do the foundation. So you would always know in advance. And sometimes it can vary. So for example, someone might apply to both a foundation year and an undergraduate degree. They might be made offers for both. And then of course, it's up to the individual student which one they choose to accept. They might reject the foundation year and decide to go straight to the bachelor's, or they might decide to hold both offers and have the foundation year as a backup. And in fact, a lot of UK students do that as well. They hold the foundation year as a backup just in case when they get their final results, they don't get the results they want. The other option is that sometimes if a student applies to an undergraduate degree, it could be that we would recommend a foundation year based on either their academic grades or their portfolio. But again, that would be in advance. It would never be a surprise after you've enrolled into the institution.
Yeah, exactly the same for AUB. We follow exactly the same process, and I think we get a lot of questions like this from the counselors that they aren't sure on what the recommendation is to give to the students on the foundation, on the degree. I think if the student have all the qualifications required to apply for the degree directly, they should go for that and apply for the degree, because as you say, as a universities, we will go through the process of the application. We will check the portfolio. We will look at that. And there could be a recommendation where the student is not quite there for the undergraduate, even if they got all the qualifications, but they will be recommended to do the foundation instead. So I think that option is always there as well if students don't quite have the level.
I think as well, sometimes it's certainly LIPA, hopefully it's the same for the other two as well. It's the same members of teaching staff that are looking at the portfolio, regardless of if it's an undergraduate application or a foundation application that the student has made. So that member of staff is able to assess the portfolio and the work of that student and consider them for either the foundation or the undergraduate degree.
And another question as well. So can your portfolio for the foundation year be built for a specific course? For example, I'm planning on applying to fashion design, but I would like to do the foundation year first. Yes, that's absolutely possible. You know, your portfolio should be aimed at the area that you are most interested in, although of course we do encourage a range of media. But within the foundation year, of course, it will vary between the providers. But for our foundation year, you do have an initial 6 weeks where you try out all the different specialist areas before choosing one to focus on. And of course, one of those areas is fashion and textiles. So if your portfolio is fashion design focused, that's absolutely fine for ourselves. Maria or Ryan might have something to add to that.
No, I think exactly the same. I mean, I think the portfolio for the foundation course, normally the portfolio guidelines or requirements for the foundation course are a little bit more general than for the undergraduate applications. Of course, we require very specific things on their undergraduate portfolios. So I think the foundation one is a little bit more general, but of course, if you have identified already that pathway within the fashion or the textiles that you like, and you probably have worked and got a lot of bits and pieces on that to add to your portfolio, definitely you can add that as a part of your foundation portfolio. No problem at all. It's good. We can see there already there is a pathway of choice for you.
So that brings us to the end of our questions. There were some great questions there. Thank you very much for those. Does anyone have any more before we end? I hope that's been useful and informative for you. And like I said, please do check out the rest of the presentations that we have over the next couple of days as well. And I hope you managed to get our email addresses as well. And you're very welcome, Runa. Thank you very much for attending. Oh, hang on, wait, have we got one last question that's come in? Oh, no, it was someone saying thank you. Thank you too. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.